Okay, so we are live on Instagram. Welcome to everyone who's joining us. And we are also live on Facebook. Thank you for joining us, all of our Facebook friends, and of course our Zoom friends as well. Okay, so we have a very difficult topic, but a very, very necessary topic to discuss today. And remember, this is our Getting Better at Being You series. Although I got a feeling that the people who need to hear this information, in terms of people who are suffering from this disease, which is a common one, are not actually the ones listening to this class. However, and this may be even more important, the people hopefully who are tuning in, who are learning and hearing today, are people who have to deal with those people who have this. So our topic is 10 ways to spot a narcissist. And for any of those people who've been in contact with a narcissist, whether in a relationship with them, that means a family relationship, a business relationship, or anything else, or a friendship. Dealing with such people is very, very, very difficult. And today, all I'm going to do, because it's enough just to do this, is how to spot someone who is a narcissist, because there are definitely themes and trends and traits and signs and signals you will see in narcissistic people. Okay? It's rare that the only ones who suffer from this. It's important to know that you're dealing with such people so that you don't think you're going crazy, which I've heard many people I've counseled say over the years, like, well, I thought I was nuts, but actually it was... I'm not going to tell you today how to really deal with those people. That's another talk. I'm not even going to discuss how they got this way. Was it nature or nurture? Those people who've heard me a number of times know that I believe it's usually a mixture of both. People are born with certain traits, and through life experiences, people not doing the right thing, bad parenting, schooling, whatever you want to say, you can ascribe it to 1,000 things. They've ended up in this way. I definitely know people, many people I've met who are divorced over the years, although thank God, vast amount of marriages which I have been involved in and performed as a rabbi and a counselor and a guide have not ended up this way. But there have been occasions when I've warned the bride or the groom way before, while they were dating, that they are going to be dealing with this. And there's one unusual comment I hear from people who become infatuated, because narcissists really are can be very smart, very charismatic, very charming individuals, which we'll see is a little bit of their disease as well. And they'll be dating someone, or someone will say, well, Rabbi, I'm in love with this person, I want to marry them. I'm like, yeah, but there's certain character flaws you're going to be dealing with. And they'll be like, I know that, but hey, someone's got to marry them. And I usually say, yeah, that doesn't mean it has to be you. Because if you are in a relationship, business, family, husband, wife, whatever it is, with someone who is a narcissist, it comes with a price. It comes with a big and heavy price. So we have to kind of identify exactly what we're dealing with and how to spot if the person you are dating or you're about to go into business with, or you have a friendship or vacation or whatever, is a narcissist, because it's going to kind of suck out the joy of this relationship, whatever it may be. So it's worth at least knowing what you're dealing with. So let's begin, and let's look for 10 signs that I've learned and heard and seen and witnessed myself when it comes to this idea of dealing with a narcissist. So number one, narcissists are very frequently will give criticism. Criticism is very common among narcissists. Now, we all criticize sometimes, right? It's a normal thing. And by the way, when you hear this list, you mean like, well, I do that and I do that. We all do some of this stuff some of the times. Narcissists do them all the time. It's just a lot more frequent among them. They are very, very critical of other people, and they don't stop. And it seems like nothing is ever going to please them. And their spouse or their friend or their employer or employee will do everything to try to please them, but it never gets through. Okay, why is this though? Why is this a trait among narcissists especially than anybody else? And that's because one of the themes we're going to see among narcissists, for whatever reason, is they like to feel superior. And the way to feel superior is to find ways to drive the other person down, because people are always going to be inferior to them. They're never going to let you feel accomplished. If you're looking for a compliment from a narcissist, you can wait and wait and wait, and you can try and you can bend yourself into a pretzel. In the end, it rarely comes, because once they give you a compliment, then at that moment you become superior to them, and everything else about them is going to crumble. So if you're in a relationship and the person is constantly criticizing you and never gives you any space or compliment for, hey, that's a great job, right? That's something which we all say sometimes. Yeah, you did good with that. You know, narcissists don't make such statements. It's not about how well you are doing, and I need to be critical of you all the time in order for you to get better. That is a narcissistic trait which you see. Number two, and all these kind of gonna overlap each other. It's like, you know, there's Venn diagrams that kind of overlap each other. They're all gonna overlap each other to some way. Number two of the ways to spot a narcissist is that they don't delve deeply into your emotions. Your emotions to a narcissist just don't count. Just don't matter to them. Whatever you're feeling, it's like they just kind of bounce off it. There's nothing there to enmesh them into your feelings. They're not interested in your happiness. They don't care what makes you happy. They only care, as we're going to see in a moment, about what makes them happy. Your feelings, your emotional well-being just have no importance with them whatsoever. So, for example, you go out for dinner with friends you haven't seen in a long time. You go out for dinner and you spend the evening with them. You come back, and let's say your narcissist is your husband, okay? A normal, healthy person will be like, how's your evening? How did it go? What did it feel like? Well, what was discussed? They'll ask questions. They'll be interested in what was going on during this time you spent together with these friends you hadn't seen in a long time. A narcissist just doesn't care. It's not on their radar. They just don't have this as part of their makeup. I mean, you'll tell them how your evening was, and they'll come out with such expressions as, oh, that's nice. But they don't really take an interest in you, your emotional well-being at all. Why? Why is that? And the simple answer to why narcissists don't care about your emotional well-being is because you are not them. And the only person they do care about is themselves. It's extreme selfishness, and your emotional being is not on their radar at all. It just doesn't even peak anywhere, you know. Some people, it goes up, it goes down. People tell you stories, you listen, and you try to get involved. Oh, that must be, that must have been difficult, that must have been annoying. But narcissists don't have that, that gene inside them. They don't have that ability to take your emotional well-being into account at all. They can't even fake it, right? And if they do, it's only about them. Which leads us to number three. And I find this very, very frustrating, especially when I'm doing group sessions, especially couples counseling, which I've mentioned I do a lot of. You'll see among narcissists something that's very, very, very common. And that is they're very, very good and quick at hijacking a conversation. So normal communication, which at this point you should realize is every relationship we're in, we're communicating, and there needs to be a to and fro of ideas, feelings, thoughts. That's how a good relationship works. But if you're in the middle of a story, especially an emotional one about something that happens to you, the last thing that you want is the person you are talking with to, or talking about, actually, if you think about it, to hijack and be like, oh, that reminds me of a time when I. So your story, your thought process, your conversation, are completely discarded, shunted, they're banked to the side, and now you have to listen to some story, which we'll see has a trait. All their stories are pretty much the same, as we'll see in a moment. Their story is all about something that happened to them. Oh, I remember a time when this happened to me. And they'll just like wax lyrical for ages, and you cannot disturb them. You cannot stop their story. It will just go on and on and on. Now, again, We all do this sometimes because we're excited and we want to have an input and share as very similar happenstance, but that's few and far between. At some point, you got to stop, listen, hear, imbibe, drink in what this other person is saying and kind of like nod and yeah, I hear it. You don't hear that from a narcissist. The communication, right? You get left behind because they have one favorite topic, and that topic is them. And any other topic which they cannot relate to or cannot show their superiority in is totally and utterly meaningless. Okay? So that's number 3. Number 4, which again is related to the previous number 3 and the remaining 5, is all narcissists lack reflective thinking. They just don't have any reflective thinking. Now, I want to be very clear with you, and this still surprises me when I deal with people who are stuck with narcissists in their relationships, whether it's work or otherwise. Narcissists can be very, very smart people. Frequently, they're extremely smart. That's why they become, heads of companies or businesses or organizations or societies, whatever it is. They could be financially successful, socially successful. They could be celebrities, right? In many cases they are, I'm sure. They may even know the difference between that which is good and bad. They're not stupid. Narcissists are not stupid people. People think they're like, right? They're not. They can be extremely smart. They know the difference between right and wrong. But reflective thinking is different. In a relationship, you're discussing things that you hope there's a feeling of meaning, of purpose, of vision. When you're in a relationship, no matter even if it's a company or a family, there's a mission, there's a vision that you have of where you want this relationship to go. They don't have that. That tool, that mechanism of self-reflection isn't there, right? They don't care about your opinion, right? They know what's best always, and there's no room for anyone else. So again, we all get like that. We have opinions, and having opinions is a good thing. We can't always be wishy-washy Charlie Brown. We've got to have opinions, but there's got to be some kind of like reflective thing. They actually get very bored. I found this a lot. You'll see them checking out very quickly when anyone else voices their opinions or their own personal stories, right? Because the only opinion that really counts for a narcissist is their own. And you can talk all you want, but no. Yeah, I know, but... And they'll speak over you and they won't let you voice your opinion. And if you do, they're like, okay, that's nice, but this is what we're going to be doing. Okay? So this reflective thinking, as sure many of you at this point of your lives realize if you're, tuning into this, this talk, is that in order for a relationship to thrive and prosper, which we all want to be in successful relationships, businesses can do very well with a narcissist at the helm. Their employees will be extremely miserable and won't be able to hack it, right? No matter how much you pay them, at some point, they're just going to break, unless they themselves are narcissists, and that's another discussion of when one narcissist marries another, which doesn't usually happen because a narcissist needs someone who's below them on the totem pole. That's what they need, right, in order to survive and be successful, okay? Number 5 of our 10 of a common way to spot a narcissist is that they... I shouldn't say this, but I actually find it funny when I hear them talking like this. They excuse every single mistake or failure they've ever made in their lives. It's never their fault. Every failed relationship, and believe me, every narcissist has a string of failed relationships. Every business failure, which even the greatest business people, just listen to any of them talk, they all talk about business failures. They have a way of admitting to their failures, and they'll say, I messed up, I owned, and then I was able to learn from that mistake and hopefully not repeat it again. But narcissists don't do that. It was never their fault. It was always someone else. It was always the CEO, right? The CFO. It was always their wife. It was always their kids. They're amazing and never taking responsibility for their failures or their mistakes. If you listen to a narcissist, you would think they've never made a mistake ever in their lives. And many people who hear them actually believe them, and they buy into their garbage. they'll be like, wow, you just got so unlucky being stuck with all these stupid people. And the answer is, well, if you keep getting stuck with stupid people, you probably chose those people to be stuck with. And therefore, the narcissist is actually just pointing a finger at themselves. Why is this? Why can't a narcissist admit to a mistake, to a failure? And the answer is actually very, very interesting. It's because once you admit to a mistake or a failure, you're showing vulnerability. And that scares the living heck out of them, because once they admit to a mistake, they now show that they're vulnerable. Because I did make a mistake, I can make a mistake again. And that's going to break the superiority that they have over you, the control they have, because you're inferior and I'm superior, and that's the way this relationship works, and that's how it's going to carry on forever and ever and ever. Okay? Number 6 is that narcissists have a lot of expectations about other people. Right? They always have a lot of expectations about other people, and certain words and phrases you'll hear narcissists use a lot. We all do sometimes, but a lot is must have, you have to, you had better do it this way, you're supposed to, right? Those are the favorite words you'll hear. Those are trigger words. When you hear those words a lot while you're dating or being interviewed or whatever, I'd rethink, right, this particular relationship. Life is meant to be one way, and invariably it's their way or it's the highway, right? Life has to play out according to their plans, their vision, and their agenda. It's okay to have an opinion the way things should be. That's great. We all need to have opinions and thoughts, but there's always an exception to the rule, right? For example, you won't hear a narcissist saying expressions like, oh, I never thought about that, right? You just don't hear those words coming out of their mouth. Oh, that's interesting, right? Because once they do that, there's information I don't have, and they know everything about everything all the time, right? They are literally unbearable to be around. I mean, why people get into relationships with them is a whole different disease, which we'll come to another time. How to get out of such a relationship we'll be talking about as well. That's something else. I'm just trying to figure out whether you're with such an individual. And by the way, again, when I deal with couples who are going through divorce or going through challenges, they always say they saw these signs while they were dating. In other words, rarely do they say, and we got married, and we were married for a week, and then, wow, I had no idea. You knew what you were dealing with. You just thought you could handle it, you could hack it, it was just a phase. Or the classic, I could change them. You cannot change them. Narcissists, it's such an extreme psychosis, and it's so socially accepted sometimes, especially in the business world, unfortunately, that it's very, very, very hard to see. It really is difficult. If you date properly, you always see signs. Now, they can cover it up at sometimes and show a certain bravado, but ultimately you can see it. Number 7, when it comes to a narcissist, is that they don't manage conflict well at all. They just don't, okay? If you get into a conflict with a narcissist, it's not an argument, it's a contest. And the contest is who's going to win. And in the end, only one person, it's like Gladiator, only one person can survive and win. And you know what? Chances are, it's probably not going to be you. They're always going to find a way to prove that you are wrong and I am right. They just don't have that. They're very into what I call the blame and shame. They blame other people in fights and they love to shame other people. That's how they win, right? They'll crush and destroy the other person. I've seen it happen in front of me many, many, many times, okay? It's a very caustic form of communication, and they're very, very into destroying the other person. They're going to fight harsh. They can be passive-aggressive. They're not always just shouting and screaming and going nuts, and can be very passive-aggressive, but it's always there. It's always bubbling under the surface. And they're also very, very good. Another technique you'll see with a narcissist is that they can shut down completely and give you nothing. right? If you get into an argument and you're doing well, they'll shut down. They won't return your calls, your texts, your messages, your emails. They will shut down. They won't return. There's no sense of teamwork. You know, those people, there's no sense of teamwork. And nowadays we realize there's been enough. I mean, I've read a lot and do read a lot of business books. These kind of like narcissistic companies run by this, you know, this dictator of a character. They can do well financially, but it doesn't go long term. In the short term, they can do well, even maybe in the medium term, but long term, people just don't want to work with them, do deals. People get frustrated, irritated, and they just leave them. They just rather, you know, not be involved in that relationship at all. And therefore, they'll completely pull themselves out. So long term in business relationships, it doesn't work. People can only hack this behavior for so long. Me personally, I'm in a room with such a person for 20, 30 minutes. I'm ready to like shoot myself. But, you know, I'm the counselor there, so it's not so simple. Okay? There's only one person you need to hear from, and that's me. That's the narcissist. That really is the narcissist. Number 8 is, again, I'm laughing because when you hear it, it's almost funny, okay? Someone's asking over here, can they change if they want to? I'm a strong believer that people can change, but they have to really, really want to, and it's very, very tough. It's really, really tough. It takes a lot of time and a lot of effort, and the spouse cannot do it. It's got to come from outside, okay? So are you able to, you know, get a remedy? Are they able to fix themselves? The answer is, yeah. I mean, the person who's decided to be in a relationship with them probably needs more help. In fact, they've, you know, been willing to be stuck with this person for so long. Yet you can't force them. You can't make them change. They have to want to. And as we're seeing, they don't realize they need to change, right? They have to reach rock bottom in the relationship in order to get to that point. But I've seen the change. You know, I've seen it. In the movies, right, it seems like they do. For some reason, I heard a talk on this actually recently from Jordan Peterson. He speaks about how, you know, why this, in the movies, they always have this like female, like helpless figure and this like bad person, the werewolf, the pirate, you know, the billionaire who treats them terribly. And then the young girl turns them around. So, you know, and the werewolf or the vampire, you know, so in the movies, they kind of do. But in real life, I'll be honest with you, it's few and far between. It is possible, but it's very, very, very rare, you know, and their behavior is erratic. And in many cases, they may be bipolar, which is a whole nother disease here as well. Okay, number 8 is they exaggerate their own personal positives. And on the flip side, they minimize their own negatives, right? It's always positive. It's always... everything they've ever done is fantastic, and they're great at talking about it, and they'll exaggerate it. Everything they've ever done is exaggerated. You know, when they become famous and people start to go through their lives, you'll see them like, wait a minute, like, did you really achieve that? Because we have no evidence of it. And suddenly the curtain goes down, right? The smoke screen that they built up kind of like blows away. It's like, whew, that's all it was. And you're left with very, very little, which is very, very difficult and painful for the narcissist. And their own negatives. They just don't, you know, they'll talk about how well they did at high school and they were champion of this and successful at that. But when you go back, I think of many politicians, especially in Britain where I grew up, you know, there were many stories that they told about their childhood, you know, they were fantastic and amazing. And they look back, other people look back and be like, yeah, that's not the way it was, right? They have this kind of dreamscape as to how, and in their own minds, by the way, they really believe it. They really believed they were a top athlete that won all these awards when actually they didn't at all. That sounds crazy. I know this sounds insane, but I've seen it too many times for it to be. You know, they always sold the biggest sale in their company, and the company would never succeed without them, although they're just like one person in the company. You know, they talk about all the stuff that's good, but never the mistakes they made. And when dealing with a narcissist, you don't ever get a real feeling of intimacy. It's just like an out shell. You just, everyone, including the people who's close to them in their lives, and you'll see children of narcissists always say that, you know, I never really got to know my father, or my mother, for that case. What a strange thing to say, because this child, this person, has lived in their house for, I don't know, 20, 25 years, and they'll say, you know, I never really got to know them. Like, you think about it, like, how can that be? How can you never get to see? And the answer is they never did. They're being really honest, because the narcissist kept it under wraps, right? They've always kept everything outside of themselves. And I've mentioned this before many times, and I'll say it again. To have real intimacy, and I mean emotional intimacy, the word itself is very good. Intimacy. Intimacy equals intimacy. And the narcissist will not let you see inside themselves. Nothing there at all. Nothing there at all. Someone asked over here, what happens when you call out a narcissist? They're never going to, yeah, I'm a narcissist. They don't say that. They have no self-reflection whatsoever, right? It's you as the person in their life who you need to realize that's what you're dealing with. Okay, let's do the last two because we're running out of time. Although I have enjoyed this very, very much. Number 9 of 10 is they are very impressed with external signs of success. This is classic narcissistic behavior, right? They like being in the biggest house with the best car, with the finest clothing, more than anyone else, okay? And being around those people as well is all that I care about, because who are you? You're a nothing. You live there and you drive that, you wear this. I don't want to be your friend. I don't want to give you the time of day. And they will attach themselves to people of higher quality as they see it, which is always, invariably, people who show outer signs of success themselves. Because plain people to a narcissist are boring. They're not exciting. And they just have no interest because they don't matter. And people who live these external signs of success, they're the ones that matter the most. See, so part of the abuse and everything else is always directed downwards. And you'll see when those other people who go lower down at the top, because no one can, maintain that level of lifestyle. At some point, we all have ups and downs. The narcissist will drop people like that. And someone mentioned over here, love bombing, and the answer is, yeah, they're very, very good at giving a lot of love, but only to the people that they think are on the same level, never above them because they're at the top. But the people who live up to their personal expectations with the big house, the big car, and the big everything else, right? Those people, but as soon as those people show any sign of humanity whatsoever, they're out. They just don't have the way to filter that part of their personality. I'm laughing, it's not funny, but it's sad. They are just greatly impressed with money and power and influence. So they're going to gravitate to those people, okay? And maybe you're a person who is not a narcissist, who are extremely successful. Narcissists are going to come to you and make it, but once you go down, they're going to dump you like, as we say in England, a hot potato, or like a rock. You're going to be nothing to them. It's a short-lived thing because it was never a friendship. Because as we said before, friendships are based upon mutual acceptance of each other's humanity. Okay. Number 10 is, and this kind of summarizes everything, there's a general sense of closed-mindedness when it comes to a narcissist. They don't want to hear from other people. They're very impatient. Narcissists are very, very impatient. They don't want to slow down to hear other people, right? They're all about, do what I say, let's go and let's move. There's never like a sense of, like, I'm open to what you have to say. And they'll treat everyone else, their wives, their husbands, their children, right? Their business partners, the same way. So this is what you need to ask yourself when in a relationship with a narcissist. Am I being asked to be loyal when actually no one is being loyal towards me? They just want a one-way loyalty, right? Do I sense that this person has a lower opinion of me when my humanity shows up? Because eventually it's going to break, right? No one can keep up that sense of self, okay? And this is a very, very key point when it comes to relationships or business. Is this someone I feel safe with, can feel safe with, when difficulties arise? That's a very, very important question you need to ask yourself, because eventually some difficulties are going to come up. And do I feel safe with this person? Because eventually some problems will come up which are beyond our control. It could be health problems, which even the richest, most successful people suffer from. It could be children problems. We all go through these problems, challenges in life. Is this person going to be by me? Are they going to accept responsibility? Are they going to help, right? When it comes to this, are they going to just throw the blame onto me and shame me for not fixing the problem, right? Do I get the feeling there are certain things this person doesn't want me to know about? There's a lot of secrets when it comes to narcissists, you know? A relationship is only as great as the secrets allow it to be. Now, I'm not saying you need to tell your spouse everything you've ever done. We all have secrets, and in many cases, keep those secrets to yourself. But in general, we want to reveal and be open with the people we love and trust, because trust is such an important part of any relationship. But when it comes to narcissists, you can't trust them. They'll use that information when they need it to break you, to crush you, to blame you, to shame you. And you don't want that. And you definitely don't want to be married to that as well. So those are our 10 signs. We'll just run through them again. Criticism is extremely frequent and harsh. They don't delve deeply into your emotions. You'll say something like, oh, that's nice, but there's nothing there, right? They don't care because the only emotions that count are theirs. They hijack conversations. They don't let you tell stories about your childhood because their childhood was way, way better and their evening was way, way better. They lack reflective thinking, right? They can be smart and brilliant and financially up there, but there's no reflective thinking about, you know, what I can do, right? They get bored of other people. Every single mistake or failure they've ever made, which we all do, is never a mistake. It's always, always somebody else. They have lots of expectations, and usually those expectations are extremely high, and they rarely compliment you. Hey, good job, right? I'm proud of you, right? That's something which kids need to hear all the time. Conflicts are not managed successfully. It's always a contest, who's going to win, and you know what? It's usually going to be them. No sense of teamwork. They exaggerate their own personal positives and never their negatives because they are perfect. They're very impressed with external signs of success, celebrityhood, money, cars, and all the rest of it. And generally, they're very close-minded when it comes to life and opinions of others in general. So if you are with such a person, you can't change them most likely. They have to be committed to really wanting to change themselves, which the vast majority are not. Could they be in successful relationships? Well, I guess it depends how you define successful. I know many people who have managed to stay married to these people and live, you know, fairly productive lives, but inside they're broken shells. So I'm going to stop over there because I've downloaded a lot of information. Thank you all for tuning in. In the future, at some point, I'm going to have more talks. I know this is a very, very, very common question I'm asked by a lot of people. Identifying how to actually deal with such a person when you're stuck with them. Stuck means in a marriage or as an employee. Sometimes you're just stuck. You know, you're staying together for the kids or for the salary or whatever it is. So many times we have to, or they're a sibling of yours, you know. You can't, you know, divorce your siblings most of the time. There has to be some interaction. So we'll deal in the future with ways to deal with them. But those are the signs. Hope you enjoyed. Thank you all for joining us. Wish you all an amazing, healthy, fantastic week as well. Thank you.